Welcome, everybody, to the premiere kickoff episode of From the Vault podcast, an exclusive podcast and web series that's going to be dedicated to all things Empire State Bank. My name is Anthony Rapp. I'm proud to be here to help introduce the show. We're going to talk a little bit about what listeners can expect in future episodes and also set the stage and also, get a little more behind the scenes with the CEO of the bank, Phil Guarneri, who is here with us today. So, Phil, welcome.
Oh, thank you, Anthony. It's just great to launch this and you to be our guest today. Looking forward to this series, and we want this series to be dynamic. So, let us know if there's a topic or something that of interest you'd like to hear us talk about. So we're just excited to launch this and bring it forward.
Perfect. And just, with me, with my marketing background, I just want to acknowledge you and say that it's great that you're doing this because, again, this is where the future is going, right? And you're at the forefront. No one else is doing this right now, and you're right there at the forefront. So good for you. Congratulations.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well, actually, this has been a great learning experience in the last year or so about different ways to introduce ourselves through the media and the podcast. Certainly part of it, and we're just excited to launch this today.
So one of the big things we want to talk about at the onset is Empire State Bank is celebrating its 20th anniversary this year. So talk about that. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, so Empire was started as a brand new bank. I always say we took the first dollar as deposit on the first day. So it was quite exciting to launch it back then and has had a great history of growing and being really a community partner for our business and our consumer customers. I think back when we were sitting and with a group of individuals, we organized, and it kind of starts with an idea.
Right.
So you have an idea, and that's the way most businesses start. You have an idea. You brought in talent and expertise that shared that idea that turned into a vision. That vision really came from a group of individuals that today some are still directors, many I should say, of having a bank that was concerned about customers.
Right.
Okay. And that's where our tagline kind of originated. We take your business personally. So that's more than a line to us.
Right.
It's our culture. It's who we are. It's everything we do. We look at customers as how can we help you?
Which is different than a lot of other banks, which just, my 2 cents.
Yeah, well, I mean, that certainly we see that. We know our competition. But, it has to come from the culture. And to create a culture is not easy.
Right.
But it's what we committed from day one. So we're built off of that.
Which is amazing. And I want to just stop you 1 second because, a lot of people are familiar with, as you said, business formation and all these things. A lot of entrepreneurs are going to be listening and watching. But talking about the formation of a bank versus the formation of an LLC, for example, totally different animals. So talk about how you get, how do you get folks in a room and say, what I want to do? Right. Let's open a bank. Like, how does that happen?
So, I sometimes ask myself that question, but some of the differences. So there's a lot of things that are similar. You are a corporation and all of that. You have bylaws and all the things that you would see. You have a board of directors. But where the differences are is the regulatory act.
Correct.
Okay. I always use this as an example. I can buy any car that I want, put it in my driveway, but I need a license to drive it.
Correct.
So you can want to be a bank, but without being licensed or chartered as a bank, you can't be one. It is very highly regulatory industry.
Right.
So key elements of starting a bank is, number one, the expertise.
Correct.
Right? So you have to have the individuals that have the expertise in banking, both from a senior management level and then also from directors. Okay. So regulators will look at that in the process to approve you. And the more experience you have, the better the chance of being approved.
Makes sense.
So that's step one. So you get this preliminary approval, but in order to be a bank, you have to raise capital.
Right. And that's the key.
That's the key.
Right.
So that's the money, right? So that could be done different ways. Some of the larger ones have done it, through public means. They'll go to an investment banker and they'll launch something throughout the country. Some banks are private, maybe a few individuals with a lot of money,
Right.
come together and start more of what you would call a private bank. We're kind of in between that. We're a public company.
Right.
We're traded, and we were started more from a community offer.
Which is
So,
important.
yeah. So, and that's all part of the plan, correct,
Right.
Anthony? So, what we did was, instead of going out to an investment banker and raising capital throughout the United States, we went out to the community. So, we went out to our friends, our family, people that knew us in the community, business people, and we raised that money ourselves.
Right.
51 dog and pony shows, I call
Wow.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, those were breakfast, lunch, and dinners over 90 days, which is not a lot.
90 days. Wow.
90 days. Now, the market was different,
Okay.
than it is today. And that goes back around 2003, 2004. And we actually raised over $20 million, but without getting too detailed, we gave back because our maximum from what we registered to do was $16.5 million.
So in 90 days, you superseded expectations,
Correct.
which is impressive.
It was correct. It actually was impressive. I'll tell you personally, a little scary.
Right. I can imagine.
Because, you do an event and somebody that knew you in the industry would come up to you and say, "Hey, Phil, here's $200,000.
Right.
Okay. So when you do it that way, and at least a lot what I felt was, from day one, I was responsible for everybody's money
Right.
because they were people I know.
And they trusted you.
I accepted
the
the
team,
check. I
right.
accepted the check.
Right.
So a lot of that has to go, I guess, the way we operate. It's like we're taking care of the community. We're conservative in some of the things we do, and that's to protect people's money.
Right.
That's kind of how it got started. And then from there, once you raise the capital, you were able to open as a bank. And that's the day we took the first dollar.
Very impressive. So
Yeah.
you superseded expectations. Now talk about, you not only as, the current CEO and as one of the founding members and going out there and getting the money, but talk about your background a little. Let's hear the origin stories of how you got involved in banking and what got you to the point where you were in a room asking folks to fund a bank, right? It had to be a big journey. It couldn't just happen overnight.
Well, it certainly is a big journey.
Right.
It probably is a little different than most CEOs.
Okay.
I was a young kid growing up in Brooklyn, New York. Went to
Shout out to Brooklyn.
yeah, right. Shout out to Brooklyn. Correct. That's where my roots are, and we have branches there today. Great market also, and certainly along with Staten Island. I had a part-time job in the stockroom in a bank while I was in high school.
That's great. So that's like
Okay,
the ultimate American dream story,
It's-
right?
It really is. I've been very fortunate because I grew up through a banking industry where I was afforded the opportunity to have many different positions to
Right.
learn. So I was a teller, and I only became a teller because I wanted to work Saturdays and you can make more money.
There you go. Well, that makes sense.
Back in my day, my dad said to me, "You're going to go out and go to work," and there was
Right.
no choice.
Uh-huh.
so you did
My
it.
father was the same way. I agree.
Yeah, so you did it, and I'm so glad he was that way. And then from there, I graduated high school. I went to college. I didn't go to no famous college. I went to CUNY, Hunter College uptown New York, where I certainly got an education.
Right.
I graduated with a finance and marketing degree, but it was more than that for me. It was just seeing different people.
Right.
I lived in, I said, in Brooklyn, so it was pretty much an American.
You got two educations, right? You got one in the streets and one in the books.
That's exactly
Yeah.
right. That's exactly right. So I learned about different people, how they think different, operate different cultures, and all of that. Which, believe it, if I will say, was the most rewarding part of my education. Just the books and all that. Yes, I wasn't the scholar student, but what I learned about people is really what makes me today and the success.
Well, that makes sense. Coming up, and again, I don't have the experience of speaking with many bank CEOs, but
Right.
from my limited experience, I would say that I could venture to guess not all of them began and worked through all of the positions. So to me, that's like a huge competitive advantage because you know what the customer's looking for and you know the processes.
And you're right. and that's what gives me my strength. And a lot of our employees have grown up, the same way through the banking industry. Continued from there. From there, I finished my college last year. Took me 2 years at night because I wanted to work full time.
There you
go. Went through from being a teller to, back in those days, they called them a new account rep.
Got it.
To being an assistant manager. And then I kind of saw my first hesitation.
Okay.
And, I was probably forming more of my career at that point. And I never wanted to become a branch manager.
Okay.
And
why is that? I got to ask.
It's very interesting because branch managers, at least for the bank I worked for, had the responsibility but had no authority.
Got it.
And I had a problem with that.
Agreed.
Because I wanted, if I had the authority, I want to be responsible.
Correct.
But to be responsible on someone else's way of doing it, it just...
You're basically the fall guy, right?
Yes.
You're basically the fall guy.
It didn't make sense. So with that, the bank that I did work was a great bank, but it afforded me the opportunity, because I guess they saw value, to get into different areas. So that's where I got into the lending area. I learned lending. Okay, I did both consumer, I did mortgages. Later in my career, I learned more about commercial real estate. And then still in that bank, I kind of got a real good education. And I seemed to be the individual that when there was a problem someplace, I got transferred. Okay?
That's a good thing.
Well, when it's happening, you normally don't look at it as a good
Correct.
thing. As I sit
more
here,
work
when I sit here decades later, I go, wow, did that teach me something? Right? I went back onto the branch side of the business. I learned a lot there. Okay. I learned more of retail channels and stuff. When you're in the lending area, you're more transactional.
Gotcha.
Someone needs a loan, they come to you. To get a deposit or a business account from someone else, it's a little different. It's a different kind of sale.
Well, back office versus front of house, right? I mean, it's totally different.
Totally different. And being a small bank, and to that point, it's a bit easier. Our back office people at Empire treat customers as if they're frontline.
Right.
In many banks, what happens, and unfortunately because of the size, is you probably have someone that wants to help you that's in the branch, but they had to call someone.
Right.
And the relationships at the branch level. But as you start going into the back office deeper and deeper, people don't know the customer.
Right.
It means nothing to say no.
Right.
When you're face to face with someone and say no,
much different.
You got to really, understand why you're saying no.
And that brings up a point that we discussed off camera, but this is something that I find truly unique. In addition to the other stuff we'll talk about, but customers here or in Brooklyn literally have access to you, who's the CEO. And now that's not to, aggrandize you or make you feel, but the reality is that's important to a lot of people, because having access to the CEO of the bank is much different. And I don't know of any other bank, definitely in Staten Island, that you could literally text, if I'm a customer of Empire and I have a problem, I could text you and you'll figure it out or get back to me. That's unique.
And I think that's a strength of being small.
Yeah.
Okay. But I think what's important is, yes, most customers have my number.
Which could be a blessing and a curse, respectfully.
No, it's okay. No, it's okay. I've been abused. It's all right.
I'm saying, it goes either way.
It comes with the territory.
Right.
Being honest with you, I don't get that many calls.
Which is a good thing.
Which means you have a team, a staff that takes care of the issues.
Correct.
And that's the authority.
Right.
See, that's what was missing in my first job. That's why I didn't become a manager. If the manager wants to make a decision for a customer, they can.
Right.
They may need to justify why they made that decision, okay? But they can justify it. Boy, we're supporting them. Even though that is the case, I want to say it doesn't happen that often as much as one would expect.
Right.
And on the business side, I just said this on a sales call yesterday, and I do make sales calls.
There you go.
Okay, along with my rep.
Right.
Okay, I said to the business owner, I said, you're going to get my cell phone number along with my rep's cell phone number. And he says, oh, I don't need it. I said, no, but you're going to get it. Because when you need to use it is when you really know your bank.
Right.
Okay? Because when everything is going well, everything's going well.
Right.
But when you have an issue in your business, that's an issue, that's when you know who your bank is.
Right. and you
Okay.
need help.
And then you need help,
Right.
right? So look, I have customers that have become friends and stuff over the years, but when I get a call on a Sunday, it's because somebody's got a problem Monday morning that we got to come up with a solution how to help.
Right.
And we'll do that. I mean, I could tell stories. I mean, I remember being at a family event and got a call from an attorney that his son was in another country and he was having difficulty with his ATM card.
Right.
Okay. I was pretty amazed I was able to accomplish
Right.
this on a Sunday, but I was able to get my rep, able to get my back office person with technology today from their home. They were able to log into our system.
Wow.
They were able to see what the issue was. They corrected it. 1 hour later, he had his money.
Yeah. That's.
Okay. I mean,
But things like that are what make the difference.
that's the difference.
Right. That's not happening at a Chase or a
We-
JP
you know,
Morgan.
Our
Right.
checking accounts
That's
basically
it.
work all the same, right?
Right.
But it's the level of service, and a lot of companies and banks talk about service.
Right.
The difference is just delivery, and
Correct.
that's what I believe we do very, very, very. We deliver. Everybody's committed, front office and back office. Point is, that's what I sensed.
Right.
She sent out a wire. Everything was done right, but she put the wrong ABA number on, and she verified it.
Right.
Okay. So wasn't that big of a problem because it was sitting at the other bank. They just didn't know where to place it.
Right.
But to get money back from another bank is
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
forget
Right.
about it.
Yeah.
Even for us.
Right.
Okay. And oh my God, I got a call from the owner and he said, I'm sure the money is there. I said, I'm pretty sure too, but let us verify everything. And then throughout the day, this employee kept, had my email.
Right.
I don't hide it.
Right.
Okay. Kept texting and we kept working on it. And believe it or not, at 4:30, we actually got the money back in the same day, which
Wow.
is remarkable
Okay.
because we stood at it. My
Right.
back office staff kept calling the bank and saying, hey, it's not yours. We need it back, this and that. And eventually we worked it through. And I believe we made some employee very, very happy because
On their end.
because that's somebody that probably was fearing for their job.
Right.
I believe. I don't know that
Right.
for actual, but but you know what? That's the way I felt.
Right.
And that's all that was important
Right.
because that's
And
what
you
we
helped.
were going to deliver,
Right.
right? Whether
And you
it
helped.
was or not, it didn't matter.
So I want to touch on, again, what we said at the very beginning about community. Now, anyone who, well, let me put it this way. You don't even have to bank with Empire, which everyone should, by the way. But you don't have to bank with Empire to know who Empire is because the brand is everywhere. You personally are everywhere. Your team is everywhere, which brings me to my question and my point about community. So unlike any other bank, community is at the heart of everything that you guys do, from events to sponsorships to support to even most recently South Shore Little League, right? I mean, you guys are everywhere. Talk about that model as almost the mantra and mission of the bank.
Right. So, and you're right, because it comes from the mission and the values that were created that I said
Right.
earlier about, take your business personally. It comes from the same place because I've learned over my career and working for other banks and looking at competition. Banks all say they're community banks. We approach it, we need to earn.
Right.
And that's the difference.
Right.
Okay. Is when we go into something, we don't ask for anything.
Correct.
We do what we believe is correct. The better that our community does,
Right.
the better the bank will do. So it's that commitment to say, I got to put the first foot forward.
Right.
That many other organizations don't do that. They expect.
Agreed.
Okay? The bank donates a lot of money even when we don't have accounts.
Right.
But I could tell you over time, those organizations say, hey, they step up and they support us and they
Right.
help us. And that could be money, that could be volunteering, that could be, I have a lot of nonprofits that come to me just to pick my brain.
Right.
And that's something else that makes us different.
Right.
Okay, in the marketplace where we're here to share our experiences with every business.
Right. And
Okay, could go to another story, and a young guy came to me, which we probably would all know. Today, he owns multiple businesses, restaurants, and he came to me the first time, and he said, "I want to buy this restaurant," and we were going to be able to do it through an SBA loan. And one of the basic things you need to have is experience
Right.
in what you're doing, right?
Correct.
So I asked and I said, what experience do you have in running and
Yeah.
owning a restaurant? And he said, well, the closest thing was I used to deliver pizza.
Right.
And I said, that's not going to make it. But why don't you think about this?
Right.
Maybe you need a partner
Right.
that has that experience. Okay. And as long as you structure your partnership correctly, then that gets you the money you need.
Right.
He did that.
And it worked.
I'm guessing he has 8 to 10 restaurants today.
There you go. See, but all from the words of wisdom.
Well, and that's what we also sell.
Right.
We sell our experiences.
Right.
We share it. And it's not only me, it's my salespeople, my staff, everyone. We share our experiences. You listen, and then you determine what it is. We don't tell you. You determine what makes sense for your business. That's something that's different, I believe, between business owners and consumer transactions.
Agreed.
Today, consumer transactions, you can go online and get yourself a mortgage, and it's all a commodity, and it's fine. If you don't have a good banker on the business side,
right,
you don't learn from their experiences.
Correct.
I could tell you why loans go bad.
Right.
I could tell you if you have a partnership that you need to prepare if that partnership breaks up.
What do you do? Right.
What do you do? Right. So I could tell you really should have life insurance
Right.
on both partners, right?
Right.
Right. Because you don't know where life brings us, right? So, life brings us obstacles, but if you anticipate the obstacles, you're prepared for them.
Right.
So that's the experience. And, down the road, I'd love to do a podcast just to, dedicated to businesses on, what you should be thinking about before you just open businesses.
Well, we're definitely going to get there. That brings me to my next point of, so, we have this kickoff episode talking about, you, the bank, and how it's formed. But as the series moves and progresses, we're going to be having guests. You're going to be bringing in your own personnel. You're going to even be bringing in some key clients in industries that you feel should be discussed. So give us sort of a little bit of a flavor of what we're going to expect in the next coming episodes.
Yeah. So I think, as you're learning a little today, you'll learn more about Empire along the path, but we want it to be more than that. We want to bring value to the community and businesses. We'll do that by sharing our expertise, sharing what you should be prepared when you're looking to come into a bank for a loan,
Right.
what a bank will look for. Okay, what are the strong points you need to have? We'll talk about things as we mentioned, as we're involved in the community, things that we may be doing out in the community.
Right.
I know we're involved in financial literacy for 5th graders in Brooklyn.
Very exciting. Tell me a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, that's and it's also like when you say you're out all over the place.
Right.
I preach. Because I'm a bit of a preacher. I preach to my sales reps that the more you're out, more the chance of opportunity.
Correct.
Right?
Agreed.
Right?
100%.
If you're
Right.
sitting, if I sit in my office, I only
Nothing's
see
happening.
the opportunity around me, and there
Right.
ain't much. I can tell
Right.
you that. But when I'm out in the marketplace and I meet people, okay. So a few years back, I was the Grand Marshal for the Columbus Day Parade on 18th Avenue in Brooklyn.
Very cool.
Okay.
Very nice.
Yeah, so that was kind of fun time. And, what was fun there, watching 2 communities come together, the Italian community
Right.
that's still there, and then the Asian community
course,
that's growing. So it was great to, walk down and see many Asians, with the
Right.
Italian flag
Yeah, it's great.
flying and stuff. So it was great seeing that people can melt together
Yeah.
and for the benefit of both. So I was walking, and then another Grand Marshal at the time was a principal of a elementary school in Brooklyn, and I think we walked 45 blocks.
Got a long time to
so we got a lot
get
of
to
time,
know each other and
right?
speak.
Get to know each other. Well, after those 45 blocks, we came to the conclusion that we needed to do something together because she wanted to bring financial literacy into her school,
Right.
and we're banks. We kind of little understand about
Makes
that.
sense.
And it's good for us to be a good steward to help.
Of course.
Not only are we helping adults and businesses and consumers, but you know what? You need to start developing the young because they'll just become better in what they do
Right.
if we start at an early stage.
And they're not teaching that these days. I mean, I know I got a
They-
5-year-old in school and I can talk. They're not
Yeah, no, it's very
basics. They don't know anything.
It's very, very true. Back in my ancient day was the days where the bank came by once a week or a month, I don't know. And we put our coin and they bring it back to the bank, deposit it, and bring
Right.
our bank book back. Okay.
But at least you learn something.
You
Now,
learn some-
they're not,
yeah, so it's great that the principal recognized this,
Right.
okay, and it was a great opportunity for us to be involved. So we've already completed 2 lessons
great.
with the whole 5th grade classes in the school. We're now going to embark on talking to the parents,
Right.
because sometimes we assume that the parents are financially literate, right? So we're going to tell them what we've been teaching their kids and stuff, so they can reinforce it. And,
Right.
and you know, and if they need to reach out to us where we could do added stuff, we'd be happy to do that.
So now you're saying 5th graders. So I'm not that good at math, but let's say in, I don't know, 11 years when they're like 21, 22, when they're all millionaires, we'll have to revisit this on the next podcast, 20 years from now, and bring one of them on as a guest and say, do you remember that time Empire State Bank was in there and telling you could be a millionaire, and see what happens?
Yeah, and we did that, right? We did that. That was fun. But, that's just a lesson that time is a very valuable thing when you have it. Right? So I learned that a little bit myself personally. I started savings for my 2 children's college education later on.
Right.
Okay. Thank God I was able to accumulate and to do it. But if you start real early with something, okay, and you're getting an interest on it, it multiplies over time. And you're correct. You start at a certain age, putting a little amount. Being a millionaire in your 40s is not
right.
It's not
easily achievable.
True.
I wish I knew stuff like that, because
Right,
I think I've said it to you in passing. But my son probably has more money in his bank account than I do, and I'm not really doing anything. It's just because we're allotting a certain amount.
Right.
By the time he's 18, 20, I know he's going to have an incredible amount of money.
And it doesn't have to be a huge amount.
Right.
It's a discipline, an amount that you always do.
Right.
And it's amazing. You could sit down. I mean, even today, some of us see, like, if we have 401ks and stuff, it comes out of our paycheck before. We never see it.
Right.
We never
Forced
get it.
savings.
We never get to spend it,
Right.
correct? And then all of a sudden, we look at our statement one day and we say, whoa, look what accumulated.
Right.
And then when you get to my stage of life, there's that little section that says, well, if you take this in investment, here's what you're going to get every month in retirement. I'm going, wow,
that's pretty good.
That,
that's
right?
nice.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's some of the fun stuff that we'll talk about going forward. I welcome anybody that's viewing this to give us a call, give me a call, and if you have a particular topic or something you'd like to discuss, to be part of the podcast, we love the participation from the viewers. So certainly send us and the email above. Certainly send it to that address. And we'll be happy to view the request and see how we can make it part of it.
Very cool. So really, again, going back to core values, community, strengthening, and education, sort of things that you don't really expect from a bank. But yet on Staten Island, since we're such a unique animal, it almost is what we do expect. And that's why I think you're such a perfect fit for business owners and consumers alike, because we're a different animal, right? Let's just face it. Staten Island, a unique bubble.
Right. Yeah, no, it's true, and Brooklyn has some similarities, much larger footprint and quite different neighborhoods and stuff, certainly. But yeah, I mean, it just comes down to the values that were embedded in this organization that we all believe in. When we hire people, that's what we ask. I mean, the interviews that I'm in, they usually start like this: do you like people?
Right.
Do you want to help people?
Right.
Because I could teach you some banking.
Right.
I can't teach you to be a human being.
Correct. No, that makes sense. I got you. Right.
So it's basic, because when it comes down to it, we all have a checking account.
Right.
We all pretty much have the same thing.
Right.
The difference is the commitment to service and delivery.
Right.
Just not saying it, but doing it. And
Correct.
that's the difference. And that's pretty much in any business.
Correct. But there's the things that attract you to it, because to your point, it is the same, but it's not. When you need that assistance, you need to make that phone call or send that email. It's a different level of service.
And me personally, and I know most of my employees, if not all of them, when I'm on a call and I don't even have the account yet, right?
Right.
And it happened yesterday, and someone has a problem. Well, when I'm done with this podcast, I already have a solution of how they're going to get their $23,000 back.
Wow. Yeah. See, that's
Okay.
what makes the difference.
And it's not even a customer yet.
Right.
Okay. Because I just want to help someone.
It's always
Right.
the right thing to do the right thing, right? That
Wanna help
age-old
someone.
adage.
And you know what? There are sometimes we do things or I do things where maybe I don't get the business. That's okay.
Right.
I'm all right with it. That
Being
happens.
a steward of the community. One has nothing to do
That's
with
it.
the other.
That's it. That's
So
it.
before we end the inaugural episode, just two things I wanted to touch on, because I know that there are two things that have happened recently in the business life cycle in this, your 20th anniversary. The first of which is a pretty great way to celebrate your 20th, if you ask my opinion, and that is your recent accolades and award. So before we, close out the inaugural episode, two quick things I wanted to touch on. One being very apropos for your 20th year celebration, if you ask my opinion, and that is your recent acknowledgement as being one of Newsweek magazine's top 2025 nationally recognized banks. And more so, even more granular, in Staten Island, being the only financial institution recognized as such. So talk about that.
Yeah, that was, wow, that was a great one because it kind of takes the 20 years of what we created in Empire and just came at the perfect time for
Yeah.
us. I mean, it's a testament to the organizers, to the board, to the management team, to all our employees.
Right.
Because everything we talk about is recognized in that one. So that award, banks are looked at for financial soundness,
Right.
okay, which is important.
Right.
It's looked at from community involvement. It's looked at exposure from various different means in the communities. So we're real proud to get that. We're real honored and excited about it.
And it's a huge, feather in the cap of any company, nationally
yes.
recognized, especially here in Staten Island,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
So it's
and when you look at it, there's probably over 3,000 banks. And,
Right.
when they got banks, as large as Chase down to guys that may be smaller than us throughout the
Right.
country. So it was it was real exciting to get that and very rewarding. And, and it makes you feel like, at least for me personally, 20 years recognized.
it's a great validation,
Yeah,
right? And
right.
then to sort of piggyback on that, because it's not that you received this and then you kind of rested on your laurels and said, all right, good, we got this award. That's fantastic. You immediately went into growth mode, right? And you brought on 3 brand new service people and client and customer representatives, right? So talk about the new business relationship managers that have come in and how you're growing to accommodate this.
Yeah, so our business relationship managers, I mean, what we look for, and I certainly look for, is not as much that, we have a position and we want to fill it. It's who the individual is,
Right.
what their culture is, how they treat a customer. And I look at those as opportunities,
Of course.
okay? So it's not like we're out there, putting ads to hire someone. It's looking out in the marketplace the opportunities. So we actually weren't looking at the time. And the first one came to us. Actually, how? Well, I think all 3 of the similar story is I've developed relationships with them over
Right.
the years.
Again,
okay?
from being in the community and being
That's
out
it.
there.
Being all over the place, right? So you develop it. They get to know who you are. Obviously, I represent Empire, so they realize who Empire is. And I get to learn who they are.
Right.
I get to see how they deal with people, how they treat people, how they act, how professional they are, how they carry themselves in a communication. So we've been fortunate. We hired Deborah, first, Deborah's background comes from the Small Business Center on Staten Island. So her total charge was to deal with small businesses.
Makes sense.
Personality, like you can't believe. Before she leaves the room, she knows everybody in the room much better than I am. She's just a warm, great person to talk to.
Right.
So that was Deborah. And we were approached with another opportunity, which once again we weren't looking for.
Right.
But the thing with opportunities are, well, you got them, you got to get them.
Take advantage, right?
Right? Don't let them pass because
Right.
they don't come around that often. And with that, we were able to pick up 2 excellent reps, and that's Fran and Maureen.
Right.
And I've known Fran and Maureen because they work as a team, probably 15 years.
Right.
Okay, from the same place. From actually, I think the first time I met them was at Echo
Of course.
event.
Shout out to
Okay,
Echo,
right? Shout
one of
out
the
to
great
Echo,
nonprofit
right,
organizations.
right. So we met there, and then through the years, we would run into each other from time to time. Um, Honestly, I've always reached out and through their, times and said, look, if you ever feel like there's a need, I'm here to help. And that doesn't necessarily mean a job for you. I'll
Right.
help you wherever.
Right.
And we developed that kind of really, good relationship. So they've been with us since March,
Right.
doing unbelievable,
Right.
far past my expectations.
Right.
Bringing over customers that have been loyal to them for decades.
Right.
Okay. And certainly the bottom line benefit is to the bank. And
Right.
and when speaking with them, and I'm sure I know that they were given offers by other banks because
Right.
everybody wanted them.
Of course.
Okay. And maybe they put a lot into more than just, a financial package.
Right.
Okay. But they were looking for a bank that was as similar as what they had
Right.
in handling their customers at Signature.
So even in that transition, their focus was on customer service because they
They-
knew that this is how they've treated their customers, and they needed an
Yeah.
institution that matched.
Correct. And just from a standpoint is, I always say this to salespeople. They say, well, so-and-so is going to pay me more. Well, more of nothing is nothing.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's true. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
They're going to give me a bigger percentage.
Right.
Well, percentage of this volume is
100%
X.
of zero is
Or
zero.
zero. That's it.
Right.
So that works that way. So I truly believe, and I'm so appreciative that they chose Empire. But it goes back to how we were formed.
Right.
It's our values. It's who we are. We're not always perfect, but we'll make it right.
Celebrating 20 years, getting to know you a little better as one of the founders of the bank, but also as the CEO of the bank for the last 20 years, and thinking about what's going to happen in the future. So I think this was a great way to begin the journey of the podcast and web series, talking about what is going to be coming down the pipeline, what's in the future. And I am excited, and I thank you for allowing me to be a part of this kickoff. I'm looking forward to the future.
Yeah, no, I thank you for joining the first one, and I would be happy having you back more often. I think
You say that now, but who knows? No.
Well, but no, this has been great. I hope it's a little informational to people, learn more about us, and future episodes. I think there's a lot more that we can have individuals learn and stuff about us, but also about what they need to understand and what they may want.
So once again, thank you so much for having me here as part of the inaugural kickoff for this exclusive podcast and web series. It was great hearing about you being involved in the formation of the bank all the way till today, to its 20th anniversary, being its former president and now its current CEO. So again, thank you so much, and I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. This has been great. Looking forward to the other parts of the series, and let us know what you want to hear, and we'll be happy to deliver that to you.